Chapter 1. The Fryer That Never Turned Off. It started with a strange hum from the fryer. Long after the restaurant had closed, Jacob, the night shift worker, noticed the oil bubbling. Even when the power was off, the sound of sizzling oil mixed with distant, ghostly whispers echoed through the empty kitchen. He brushed it off as a malfunction, unaware that it was the first sign of something sinister lurking in the shadows. The faint clinking of metal spatulas against the fryer seemed to come from invisible hands. The oppressive heat from the fryer pulsed with an eerie energy, and the shadows along the walls stretched and twisted like living things. Jacob tried to ignore the unsettling sensations, focusing on cleaning the grill, but the whispers, "Help me, I'm still here," grew louder. His hands trembled as he turned to check the empty kitchen. The fryer's oil rippled, as if something invisible had disturbed the surface. Panicking, Jacob stepped back, crash, knocking over a tray. The sound echoed through the silent restaurant, but there was another noise, like faint, muffled breathing. Coming from beneath the fryer, Jacob hesitated, then slowly crouched down to peer into the fryer's grease trap. To his horror, he saw a pale, bloated hand submerged in the bubbling oil, fingers twitching ever so slightly. Jacob stumbled backward, breath ragged. The lights overhead flickered as the fryer's hum grew louder, becoming a deep, guttural vibration that shook the very walls. Suddenly, the fryer hissed, and a burst of scalding oil splattered onto the floor, forming a dark, grotesque shape that resembled a face, contorted in agony. Jacob fled to the break room, thud, 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 heart pounding. From the kitchen, the fryer continued to sizzle and spit, the whispers becoming laughter, soft at first, then growing into a chorus of malevolent giggles. He knew, deep down, that something ancient and evil had awakened within the walls of this cursed McDonald's, and it was only the beginning. The following night, the playground outside the restaurant stood empty, bathed in the pale glow of the flickering streetlights. The rusted swings swayed gently, creak, creak, as if pushed by invisible hands. A cold breeze swept through the area, carrying whispers that seemed to come from beneath the ground. Jacob couldn't shake the terror from the previous night. He stepped outside for a breath of air, but the moment he set foot on the asphalt, he heard clang, like the sound of metal chains dragging against the pavement. His eyes darted to the old slide, where the shadow of a child flickered and vanished, heart pounding. Jacob approached the slide. The air grew colder with each step. He reached out to touch the metal, only to feel a sudden chill that seeped into his skin. From the shadows beneath the slide, a soft giggle echoed. A blood-curdling scream erupted from nowhere, sending Jacob stumbling back. The playground lights flickered violently as dark, childlike figures emerged from the shadows and ran toward him, their faces obscured by darkness. Jacob bolted back inside the restaurant, slamming the door behind him. Through the window, he saw the figures standing at the edge of the playground, their hollow eyes glowing faintly in the dark. As the clock struck midnight, the figures dissolved into the shadows once more. But Jacob knew this place was cursed, and whatever haunted it was just beginning to wake. Come play with us, Jacob. Jacob's breath quickened as he realized the playground was not empty, and the spirits of those who never left were now watching him from the darkness. Chapter 3. The forgotten freezer. Jacob's mind was a swirling vortex of terror and numbness as he retreated to the depths of the restaurant's walk-in freezer, desperate for a momentary escape from the horrors that had besieged him. The heavy door creaked open with a sound that echoed like a dying whisper, revealing an expanse of ice and shadow inside. The air was thick with stale cold and the metallic tang of decay, while a thin veil of mist curled along the floor, carrying with it the faint echoes of past despair. Every cautious step Jacob took into the frozen abyss made his heart pound louder than the relentless ticking of time. The walls were lined with ancient shelves burdened by layers of frost and forgotten relics. Bags of fries sealed in time, patties encased in glacial ice, and containers coated with brittle frost. It was as if the very essence of despair had been imprisoned here, waiting silently for release. The crunch of his footsteps on the icy floor punctuated the oppressive silence, each sound resonating like a desperate heartbeat in the cavernous cold. As Jacob ventured deeper, a soft rhythmic tapping began in the distance, echoing from the darkest corner of the freezer. The sound grew steadily, intermingling with the faint creaks and groans of the old structure. Suddenly, his pulse spiked as a shadowed figure emerged from the swirling mist near a decrepit meat locker. Frostbitten eyes glowed with an unearthly light, and skeletal hands, pale as the winter moon, slowly reached out, scraping against the metal shelves with a grating sound. In an instant, the fragile silence was shattered by the violent crash of breaking glass. Crash! The ancient meat locker's pane exploded into a shower of glistening shards that danced in the cold air, mingling with the creeping mist. The spectral figure lunged forward with a desperation born of endless winter, its gaze fixed on Jacob as though intent on dragging him into a realm of eternal frost. The scraping, the shattering, and the echo of the impact fused into a nightmarish symphony of terror. Jacob's scream was swallowed by the overwhelming cold, lost amid the relentless cacophony of his pounding heart and the relentless drone of frozen despair. The freezer door slammed shut behind him with a resounding bang that reverberated off every icy surface, trapping him in a tomb of perpetual winter. In that suffocating darkness, whispers of despair crept through the air, promising that his fate was now sealed. The spectral figure advanced slowly as if savoring its victory, while the icy air thickened with the mournful laments of those long forgotten. Time itself seemed to freeze her. Chapter 4. The manager's office that watched. Jacob escaped the freezer, only to find himself drawn to the dimly lit manager's office. The dusty security monitors glowed faintly, showing grainy footage of the empty kitchen and playground. But as he watched, the screen flickered, and a shadow moved across the fryer. On another monitor, dark figures danced around the playground, and on the third, a pale, grinning face stared directly into the camera. The office door slowly creaked open behind him. Creak. Jacob froze, every muscle taut with dread. Slowly he turned, half expecting to see a ghostly figure in the doorway. Instead, the corridor beyond the office was swallowed in darkness, with only the occasional flash of faulty neon light to reveal fleeting shapes. He stepped forward, compelled by a mix of terror and morbid curiosity inside. The office was a relic of a bygone era. A heavy wooden desk, scarred by decades of use, file cabinets with drawers left slightly ajar, and a rotary phone that sat eerily silent on a shelf. Faded photographs of stern-faced managers and smiling employees lined the walls, their eyes now seeming to follow his every move. As Jacob moved deeper into the room, the monitors began to glitch, distorting the images into nightmarish visions. One screen revealed the manager, a gaunt figure in a stained uniform, whose eyes burned like coals and who silently beckoned him closer. Another monitor flickered with images of the office in its prime, overlaid with the discordant laughter of unseen voices. The voices grew louder, overlapping into a haunting chorus. Stay. Stay with us. They echoed off the walls, sending shivers down Jacob's spine. His trembling hand reached toward the desk and brushed against a cold metal file folder, marked with a date long buried in tragedy. Suddenly, the overhead light flickered violently. Flicker, flicker, flicker. And in that split second, the grinning face on the monitor seemed to come alive, its eyes locking onto his ape. Resonant laugh boomed through the office. Ha ha, ha ha, reverberating off the walls. Jacob stumbled backward, his heart pounding in his ears. Before he could react, the office door slammed shut behind him. Bang! Plunging him into darkness, punctuated only by the intermittent glow of malfunctioning screens. The room pulsed with an unearthly energy, as if the very walls were steeped in the memories of suffering and loss. Silence. Jacob felt an unseen presence drawing ever nearer. The monitors now displayed fragmented images, fleeting visions of tormented souls and spectral hands reaching out in silent plea. With every beat of his racing heart, the voices swelled, the images sharpened. The spectral manager's image loomed large on the main screen, his eyes filled with sorrow and malice. "You belong to us now," intoned a voice, both hollow and commanding. Trapped in the manager's office, Jacob realized that every corner of this cursed establishment was watching him. Past and present converged in this singular moment of terror, binding him to the dark legacy of the building. As the monitors flickered and the voices merged into one final desperate plea, Jacob felt himself sinking into a fate from which there was no escape. And in that final echo, the room grew silent, leaving behind only the chilling promise of despair and the ominous certainty that his ordeal was far from over. Chapter 5: The Assembly of Shadows. Trapped in the manager's office, Jacob's terror deepened as an oppressive darkness pulsed beyond the walls through cracked windows and jittery monitors. He glimpsed a ghostly congregation assembling in the corridors, a spectral gathering of lost souls whose hollow eyes glowed with ancient fury. An eerie chant filled the air, a low, haunting refrain echoing off stained walls. "Join us." The steady drumming of unseen footsteps grew louder, each beat like a solemn dirge marking the passage of cursed time. Shadows slid along the walls, merging into dark silhouettes that moved in sync with the relentless rhythm. Jacob's heart pounded as murmurs of despair, sorrow, and bitter resignation interwove with the drumming, creating a symphony of dread that seeped into every corner of the office. A sudden gust of wind burst through a broken window, carrying the spectral voices of those who had once suffered within these walls. "You cannot escape," they hissed, their tones layered with haunting pain. On the largest monitor, the manager's ghost reappeared, a gaunt figure in a stained uniform, his eyes burning like dying embers. In a voice both sorrowful and sinister, he intoned, "You are one of us now," sealing Jacob's fate with that single chilling decree. Panic surged through Jacob as the door, once a promise of escape, warped beneath the weight of unseen forces. He felt the assembly of shadows pressing in from every side, their collective presence a crushing force of regret and wrath. The floor trembled beneath his feet, and every surface pulsed with the unholy rhythm of despair. In that surreal moment, the office transformed into a theater of torment. Monitors flashed with fragmented images of the past, a collage of smiling faces twisted by eternal sorrow, ghostly hands reaching out, and a muted chorus of voices echoing through time. The laughter that filled the air was both mocking and mournful, a grim reminder that the curse of this place was unending. As the assembly's chant swelled and the voices merged into one final desperate plea, Jacob felt his will begin to crumble. Trapped in the manager's office, with the specters of the past closing in, he realized that escape was but a fading memory. The darkness enveloped him as the monitor's glow dimmed, leaving him with the inescapable truth that he, too, was bound to the cursed legacy of this haunted McDonald's. And in the lingering silence that followed, only the cold promise of eternal despair remained.
You seldom my sword shadows soften, and the sea where I stoke This body's desire stopped to interrupt.
Chapter 6. The Final Order. As midnight approached, a dreadful stillness fell over the cursed McDonald's. The spectral assembly had receded, leaving Jacob alone amid the oppressive silence of impending doom. The stale air pulsed with echoes of ghostly chants and the unyielding hum of haunted machinery. In the flickering neon gloom, a new presence emerged, a deep, resonant voice emanating from the very walls. Your final order awaits. It intoned, its tones slicing through the darkness. Like a razor, Jacob's blood turned to ice as he realized his fate was no mere accident. He had been chosen to complete an unholy ritual. Trembling, Jacob followed the disembodied command, his footsteps echoing on grimy tile. Each step led him deeper into the restaurant's heart, where reality blurred and spectral visions danced at the edge of sight. In the farthest corner, behind abandoned service stations, he discovered an old, battered cash register. Its display flickered with an unearthly glow, beckoning him closer. As he approached, the register began chiming in a discordant melody, a summoning call reverberating with voices of countless lost souls. The digital screen morphed, displaying a single phrase: place the final order. The room grew colder, and whispered commands filled his ears. Complete the order. Complete your destiny. The voices merged into one insistent murmur. With every ounce of courage, Jacob's trembling hands reached for the faded keys on the register. As he pressed them, a flood of spectral images overwhelmed him. Faces of former employees, customers turned to shadows, and anguished eyes pleading for release. In that moment, he understood that the final order was not a mere transaction. It was an invitation to join the ranks of the eternal damned. The register emitted a piercing shriek. As ancient machinery sparked to life, a torrent of ghostly figures surged forth, swirling around Jacob in a vortex of despair. He tried to flee, but their oppressive presence rooted him to the spot. The voices crescendoed into a deafening chorus, each echo a reminder of his irreversible fate. Welcome to your eternal shift. And as the lights dimmed and the spectral chorus faded, Jacob was consumed by the darkness, his final order fulfilled in the cursed annals of this haunted McDonald's.
Rain falling softly, neon flickers in the dark. Strolling through cursed corridors, where the friar cries and secrets echo in the night. A playground of lost souls, empty swings, moan, footsteps and distant laughs of the past, haunting every step I roam. Whisper to me, reveal the midnight curse tonight. Thunder rumbles with the shadows, let the eerie neon light ignite. Feel the fear as the darkness claims its right. In the manager's office, visions twist and scream, static and echoes. Flickering memories of despair blend into a nightmare dream. Cold mist in the freezer, spectral hands reach out. I see winds. The battle markers drowning hope in silent doubt. But might lead to miss forlorn hush. The curse lingers on where every shadow hides a tale of endless night.